That our learning is impacted by the quality of the reading we do, and our reading is impacted by how well we're able to condense, process, and summarize what we encounter on the page. When summarizing, readers must not only concentrate, but actively engage with the material on a conceptual level. Think of reading comprehension as the stage when you're converting the written word into a data format that's recognized by your brain so it can be stored properly in your memory. One simple summarizing tool that can help is the 3-2-1 strategy. It involves summarizing key ideas, rethinking them, and posing a question to reveal uncertainty. Basically, the 3-2-1 strategy is filling out a chart that requires 3 things you found out, 2 interesting things that made you curious, and 1 question you still have. You could also modify this to end up with 1 thing that you can concretely do with what you've learned. Or, if you want to use this frame to encourage reflection of the study process, try listing 3 things you know, 2 things you don't know, and 1 thing you've struggled with. If you quickly do this process before a learning activity as well as after, it gives you a helpful framework to track your progress. The strategy can also be modified depending on what you're studying. For instance, if you're studying the transition from feudalism to the emergence of nation-states, you can apply it and write down the following by listing 3 key facts about feudalism, 2 effects of feudalism on the economy, and 1 question you still have about the topic. If you're more interested in the learning process itself, then your list will tend to focus more on those ideas. It doesn't quite matter how you do it. What's important is that you're engaging with the text, rethinking ideas, and focusing on those that you're most interested in or challenged by. Let's take a closer look. If you want to focus on conceptual and analytical learning, find 3 metaphors or symbols, 2 things they have in common, and 1 way they support the overall aim of the text. 3 underlying assumptions of the topic, 2 common misunderstandings of the topic, and 1 idea that used to be an assumption but is now seen as a misunderstanding. 3 strengths of the process under study, 2 styles or forms of that process, and 1 way it might evolve in the future. If you want to focus on engagement, debate, or discussion, find 3 ways you agree, 2 ways you disagree, and 1 thing that surprised you. 3 claims someone else is making, 2 things they disagree with, and 1 thing you feel they haven't provided evidence for. If you want to focus on reflection about your learning process, find 3 things you know about yourself, 2 flaws you need to work on, and 1 new thing you've learned about yourself. 3 open-ended questions, 2 closed questions, and 1 probing question. 3 ways your study strategy is working, 2 ways it isn't, and 1 practical step you can take right now, and so on. You can also use 3-2-1 for organizing research or research questions, focused reading, or even troubleshooting. As you can see, there's nothing magical about the numbers 3, 2, and 1. You could put them in any order and focus on any ideas, topics, or themes you wanted to. The usefulness of this technique lies in the fact that it forces autonomous engagement with what you're reading. When we do active reading, or ask questions in the SQ3R method, for example, what we're doing is processing the information rather than just passively absorbing it. Because of this method's simplicity, it's great to combine with other study techniques. Here are some ideas, for example. You're using the Gibbs model described above to analyze your performance on a math exam. You move through the steps of describe, feelings, evaluation, analysis, etc. But for each step, you look for 3 separate chunks of information. For example, for the first step of describe, you find 3 things that happened in the exam, 2 things that you were unprepared for, and 1 thing you feel everyone else also experienced with the exam. Next, for the feeling step, you find 3 feelings you feel now, 2 feelings you felt before the exam, and 1 feeling you expect to feel tomorrow. You're trying to learn a lot of new vocabulary in a new language, but you're working hard to respect your cognitive limitations and not overload your working memory. So you ask yourself to identify 3 of the most important words you absolutely need to remember, essential load, 2 that are more difficult, generative load, and 1 word or piece of information that you can ignore, extraneous load. The 3-2-1 method allows you to practically apply this understanding about working memory. You're trying to brush up on certain math skills by gamifying your learning process. You create a store of practice problems at easy, medium, and hard difficulty levels. Then, as a challenge, you assign yourself 3 easy, 2 medium, and 1 hard task. When you complete these, you give yourself a mini reward. Perhaps to finish the study session, you invert this and do 1 easy problem, 2 medium, and 3 hard. Solve this ultimate challenge and you award yourself a session badge and complete your tasks for the day feeling proud and accomplished. Some people may find the 3-2-1 method a little vague and wonder how exactly they could apply it to their own situation or study material, but asking these questions is precisely where the benefit lies. The more you autonomously shape and guide your own learning, the better your comprehension, the better your processing, and the better your memory formation and recall. In other words, you'll learn faster. Here's a great way to start applying the method right now. Close this book and see if you can remember 3 facts about the method just discussed, 2 things that stuck out to you as most interesting, and 1 thing you're still not sure about or disagree with.